Okay, so uh, have you heard this whole thing about AI taking over coding jobs? Sounds kind of crazy, right? Like straight out of science fiction. But some recent comments from Amazon's cloud chief have got everyone talking.
Yeah, I saw that too.
It's this article from Inquirer.net. It came out on August 22nd. Amazon cloud chief, devs may stop coding when AI takes over.
Oh, yeah, that one definitely got some attention.
Yeah, so for this deep dive, I thought it'd be interesting to, look into it, see what he actually said, what
Mm.
others in the industry are thinking, the whole thing.
Yeah, sounds good.
This whole thing is pretty interesting because it's coming from, inside one of the biggest tech companies.
Right, exactly. It's not just some random prediction.
Exactly. So the article is about this leaked recording of an internal like fireside chat thing, and it features Matt Garman. He's Amazon's cloud chief,
Oh, wow.
and what he says in this recording is, well, pretty surprising to say the least. It's kind of sent shockwaves through the industry. So basically, what Garman's suggesting is that in about 2 years, developers might not need to code anymore.
Well, hold on. He really said that, like straight up.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it, that AI will be able to just handle it, you know?
Huh. That's a pretty bold statement, especially coming from the head of Amazon Web Services, right?
Yeah, you would think so. It really makes you think about what's going to happen to all the software developers out there. We always think of them like hunched over a keyboard, typing away lines and lines of code,
Totally.
and Garmin's vision of the future is like totally different.
So what does he see happening instead?
Well, he basically thinks that developers will work more on a strategic level, focusing on the what instead of the how, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, I see.
He even compares coding to like
Mm.
a language we use to talk to computers,
That's an interesting way to put it.
right? And he says the real value is in like the innovation
Yeah.
and the problem solving part of it and building things that people actually need and want, you know?
So instead of focusing on the technical side of things, you're saying that developers will be more focused on what users want and need.
Exactly. They'd be like masters of understanding those needs and then like translating them into solutions that AI can then, actually execute.
Wow, that's a huge shift in how we think about development. So he's basically saying that coding becomes the tool, not the goal itself.
Exactly. Like the real skill would be knowing what to build and why. He even like urged Amazon employees to start finding ways to integrate AI into how they work.
Wow.
It's like he's saying, hey, this is happening, so get on board.
A call to action almost.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. Not everyone in the tech world is dying into this whole vision of the future. There are some other leaders out there with like totally different opinions on how this is all going to play out.
Oh, really? Like who?
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting to see the different perspectives. Want to hear about some of those now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious to hear what others are saying. So, like, one example is Jensen Huang. He's the CEO of NVIDIA, and he's got a way more optimistic take on this whole thing.
Okay.
He actually thinks that these AI coding assistants, they're going to make coding, like, accessible to way more people.
Really?
Yeah. He even said this famous quote, like, everyone is a programmer now.
Oh, yeah, I think I heard that. It's pretty catchy.
Right. And it kind of flips the script, doesn't it? Instead of AI replacing programmers, it's like empowering everyone to be creators.
Yeah, that is a really different way to think about it.
Right. Like it could actually break down the barriers to entry in the software world. Let people with cool ideas, even if they don't have a ton of coding experience, actually bring those ideas to life.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about the possibilities.
Yeah.
But then you've got someone like Imad Mastaq.
Oh, yeah. What about him?
He's the former CEO of Stability AI.
Uh-huh.
And he's making an even bolder prediction, like way bolder.
Oh.
He says there will be no programmers in 5 years.
Whoa, no programmers at all. That's a pretty extreme take, isn't it?
Right. It's like the complete opposite of what Huang's saying.
Yeah, it really shows you the range of opinions on how AI is going to, change the whole landscape of software development.
So we've got Garmin saying no one's going to need to code, Huang saying everyone's going to be a programmer, and Mostok saying there'll be no programmers at all.
Right. It's like, what are we supposed to believe? Where do we even begin to make sense of all these predictions?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a choose your own adventure for the future of coding.
I think that's where the real discussion starts. We got to unpack all these different perspectives, really look at the arguments behind them.
Okay, yeah. Like, let's take Garmin's analogy about coding being like a language. I mean, it's true. Coding is how we communicate with computers.
Right.
But it's also like a really complex skill.
Mm.
There's problem solving, creativity, all these different ways of thinking about programming. It's not just about knowing the words, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's more than just syntax. There's a whole art to it,
Right. It's like comparing a painting made by a human artist to one that's like generated by AI.
Mm.
They might both be technically impressive, but there's something about the human touch, like a depth and soulfulness that AI might not be able to capture.
That's a really good point.
So do you think AI can actually replicate that artistry, that human ingenuity that goes into making like really great software?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's such a crucial point as we, try to navigate this potential shift in software development. It's not just about efficiency, it's about creativity and innovation and really understanding what humans need and want.
Totally. So for all our listeners out there, whether they're, seasoned coders or just starting out, or even if they're just curious about AI,
Mm.
why should they care about this whole debate?
That's a good question. Well, I think this whole debate really highlights how fast technology is changing. Like, what sounds like science fiction today could be reality tomorrow?
Yeah, it's moving so fast.
Right. And it's a reminder that we all got to stay curious, keep learning, keep adapting, be open to new tools and new ways of working, because the skills that are hot today might be totally different in just a few years.
Yeah, it really is like we're on this crazy roller coaster and AI is just one of the loops.
Exactly. And we can either, cling to what we know and risk getting left behind, or we can just throw our hands up and enjoy the ride, embrace the unknown.
I like that analogy. So what advice would you give to someone who's like just dipping their toes into the coding world or thinking about a career in tech? Should they be like freaking out about AI taking their jobs before they even get started?
I don't think it's about freaking out. It's about, seeing it as an opportunity. Instead of just focusing on mastering one specific language, focus on developing those adaptable skills that are going to be valuable no matter what happens with AI.
Yeah. What kind of skills are we talking about?
Like problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration, all that good stuff. Those skills are going to be in high demand, even in an AI-powered world.
So it's not about being replaced by AI. It's about evolving with it.
Yeah.
Finding ways to work together,
Yeah.
to leverage its power while still bringing our own like uniquely human skills to the table.
Exactly. AI is a tool.
Yeah.
And how we choose to use that tool, well, that's what's going to determine its impact on our lives and our careers.
Yeah. It's like that old saying, what is it? The future is not something we enter. The future is something we create.
Oh, yeah. I like that one.
And, the more we all understand about AI and what it can do, the better we'll be at, shaping that future in a way that actually works for everyone.
For sure. And we've talked a lot about how AI could change like the role of a developer, but this isn't just a conversation for programmers.
Right. It goes way beyond that.
Totally. It's a societal shift. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's going to impact all of us one way or another. So it's really about understanding both the power and the limitations of AI and having these like thoughtful conversations about how we want to integrate it into our lives. Where do we draw the line?
Yeah. I mean, what really gets me is that even if AI takes over all the like tedious parts of coding, it still needs us.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It still needs humans to set the goals, to decide what problems need to be solved in the first place, and to make sure that the solutions are, ethical, that they're actually good for society.
Absolutely. I mean, that brings up a whole other layer of like ethical stuff that we can't just ignore.
Right. Like a whole can of worms.
Totally. Like what happens when AI written code messes up? Who's responsible then?
That's a good question.
Right. Or how do we prevent biases from like sneaking into the algorithms that are being used for development? These are questions we're going to have to figure out as AI becomes, more and more part of the process.
Lots to think about. So, okay, let's recap. We've looked at how AI could totally change coding. We've heard from these tech leaders with totally different predictions. And we even dipped our toes into some of the ethical stuff that comes with this whole, like, tech disruption thing.
Yeah, it's been a pretty deep dive. So as we wrap things up here, I want to leave our listeners with this thought.
Okay, hit me.
What if, and just hear me out, what if AI really does take over the coding part of software development? What would that open up? What new possibilities for creativity and innovation? What amazing things could we build and achieve when we're not limited by, the old ways of coding? It's pretty exciting to think about, right? Like the potential is huge.
That's a great question to end on. It's a good reminder that even with all this uncertainty, all this change happening, there's still so much possibility. So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep imagining the future you want to create. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, stay curious.